that day in your kitchen that told you that you need to get back to your art to kind of deal with that? Can you talk to us a little bit about that? Like, what was going on? Like, where did that come from? And what was it that made you feel like that could be a difference for you? Your art could be a difference maker for you.
Well, it was right around the time, right before my 21st birthday, right before I was just sitting there. I just moved out, and I remember just sitting there, like having like a not an epiphany, but like a what is going on? Like, what is going on? And I believe actually, Craig, I went on a bad trick. It may have been after I was 21. I think it was when I was 21, after my 21st birthday. And I was just, we had been going through it. I remember she and I had been arguing, you know, and I sat there, we had a glass table, a circle glass table right by the two windows at the front. I just said, I need to do something. And the only thing I knew how to do that I didn't need any help with or anything was to draw, So that day I just was like, I need to do something. And it started with sticky pads. I just started drawing on sticky pads, little sketches, little random things, little characters. And it was right there. I was like, you know, it was an instant distraction. It occupied my time. I wasn't thinking about anything. And in that moment, I was just like, I like this. I miss this. And like now looking back at it, it was something that I loved all my life and I was familiar with. But then when at that time, it was a different feeling. It was just like, I always drew because I like to draw and trade before, just because I enjoyed doing it. It was something fun to do, to draw, look back and be like, wow, I did that. That was cool. This time it was like I didn't know what I was creating, but it's like my brain was just like, here, create this, do this. And over time, right before my daughter was born, I eventually went to Walmart and bought a sketchbook, a cheap black sketchbook I still have. And I started drawing again. I brought some pencils, erasers, sat down at that kitchen table, and I just drew. I think I drew, the first thing I drew, I think, was Minnie Mouse.
Okay.
And it was just to draw something, just to draw, but I was working on my shading and my technique, making it look just like the picture I was drawing from. And it turned out great. And I never forget sitting back and looking at that time when I got back into drawing. It was like, I still got it. But little did I know that was the prelude to a whole different evolutionary phase with my art. Because it took me on the path, as I'll explain, that I would never have imagined. So from then, whenever I would like have stress, she and I get into it, or just have, a hard day, or even when I would be on a substance and I, be sitting there regretting my decision to do it and telling myself like, I gotta change, I gotta do this. Instead of just having it all jumbled up here, I'd sit down and draw. And then it was like everything up here just translated for whatever I could have been feeling. It could have been feelings of regret, feelings of stress, wanting better for myself and my family, or just things, like as we discussed, things that I know is going on in the world, in my neighborhood, the neighborhood I was living in, just the struggle I was able to see firsthand from friends that I developed, the friendships I made over there, people I saw, people I sold drugs to, people I used drugs with, their relationships, their family dynamics, the lack of education. There's so many things, just with the things I would think about, I was able to release in the form of my art. And that's why I'll go back and say I didn't always know it, because before I would look at something and say, I want to draw mountains and a forest, so I want to draw this car, I want to draw this cool character, I want to draw this image of this person. So I knew what I wanted to draw. This was something different. This was like, it was like I said, it was getting all my emotions out. So the final result, it was something different.
Yeah, and I think that's really powerful. And it almost seems that it was, we talk about mental health, right? So, you said that you had all these things in your mind, and your art allowed you to sort of, get it out. And I wonder if part of that, Justin, was and doing your art and dealing with what you were dealing with, you know, from an emotional and mental standpoint, it was you had to deal with it, right? You know, so instead of having to talk about it, it was on paper for you to deal with. So those thoughts and those images and those feelings that you had on the inside, you got it out and it was on paper. So you were drawing, but I wonder if at the same time it was causing you to dwell on those things that you were feeling. And then as a result of that, it caused you to dwell on maybe what got you to that point. That to me, that feels, like another level deeper than just your mental health, almost your spiritual health as well. What do you say about that? You think there's a connection?
Greg, I think it's a deep connection. And it's funny you say that because as I would draw the image from the little details that would connect to the bigger image, it would be like my thought process. How did I get to this point? So this is the pain, or this is what brought me here that I'm creating. This is what took me there. Now, this is what I want to see. This is what I know what's going on. And then once I was done, before the emotions and the thoughts and the things that were plaguing my mind, it would exacerbate my anxiety. I would stress. I couldn't figure it out. It was just like too much. But after I created the piece, it was like a sense of just like and then I could look at it. So then by me looking at it and dissecting my own work, because breaking down what I know what it means to me, I'm appreciating my art at the same time. So I'm looking at these emotions and I'm smiling now. I'm not sitting there, angry about or sad or confused or conflicted about this. I'm able to look at it and smile and actually appreciate the art, but at the same time, appreciate the thoughts. Like appreciate that I've allowed myself to feel those things, which are normal, but now in a healthy way to cope with them, instead of doing something and acting on them, I created on them. So my actions from these emotions, which I've come to realize everyone has, especially when you put this weight of a huge struggle spiritually, financially, emotionally, all over the place on you. That to me was like, I knew I was like this, I need this, I have to do this. And I know without a doubt from the pieces that I've created, if I didn't draw, I don't know what I would have done. I don't know how I would have done it.
And that's interesting, Justin, because I think the blessing for you at a very early age, when you were 5 or 6, is that you discovered art. You discovered an interest. It was something special about that. And you continued into your late teens, and then you disconnected. But you knew that there was something that you could go back to. So that's why I think it's important that for our kids, for our young men, our young Black boys, that when they're young, we have to be very intentional on paying close attention to things they show an interest in, gifts and talents that God may have instilled in them, so that we can to direct them, to help them to nurture, those interests and those skills and those talents, just so that they have options in life, because you never know how it can play a role. Obviously, we don't want them to go down a path that's rough in life, but we need to connect them to something deeper. And I know someone may say, well, we're just talking about art, but I think it's deeper than that. I feel like God gave you art for you. That's his connection. That's one of the ways that he connects to you, and I wonder if that day in your kitchen, when there was something that was telling you that you need to draw, if that wasn't maybe your spirit, connecting with your soul and saying, look, this is what you need to do to kind of deal with what you're dealing with right now. You were mature enough to listen. So just what I like to do now, man, is to kind of transition and talk a little more about your art, because your art is sick, right? So, man, and as we're talking, like the people, they're seeing, some of the images of your art. So we'll be able to share that. But also, there's a link that I provided where people, they'll be able to see more of your artwork, and with you curating to kind of talk in detail about a few pieces of your art. So want to invite people to hit that link too, to check more out about Justin's art. But man, the thing about your art that's so powerful is the detail in your art, the dynamics of your artwork, just looks like you poured yourself into every piece of art. And when you and I kind of went over and you showed everything to me, I was really blown away because with the level of detail. So can you talk to us a little bit about your art in terms of the detail and what you were able to put on that paper?
Yeah, Craig, and thank you. I appreciate you saying that too. It's the details for me will represent two different factors in my thought process. And one, it's the crazy amount of thoughts that run through my head. I've since known that that's called anxiety, and I struggle with it a lot throughout my life, and I recognize that now. But the details come from the little images, like you said, that make up just something else. It's all the different things that are running through my mind in regards to a particular situation or what's going on. And then the other aspect is, it's when you first look at it, you glance over it and you see it and it's like, oh, that's cool. But if you don't take the time to look at all little details, from numbers to words, little marks and where they are, that's what brings the piece together. Because if you're looking at it and just glancing over it, it may not make sense to you. It might. Art resonates with everyone differently. That's the beauty of art. It speaks to everyone in its own language that they understand. However, I feel like if you take the time and just go over it, then you start to get the message. Then you start to get a feel of, that's pretty cool. Or that's why that's there. And for me, it was just, I've always appreciated that, because it allowed me to get all these little details out of my head, like I said, onto the paper. So I can't always tell people, and that's been something I struggle with. I don't always know how to articulate verbally my feelings and things to people. It's all sounds good in my head, but it's always in my head. So the transition doesn't always connect for different reasons, but I know through my art, I don't have to speak. It'll do it for me, because it's literally a little representation of my thoughts. Those little details that make up this big image, they're all there because they're all a piece of the puzzle. All a piece of the puzzle. It's like a little journey. That's what I want people to do, is I invite them on a journey. It's like, take a little trip with me through my thought process, and see what it's like. And I feel like that's why art is such a healthy way for people to just cope.
Yeah, and I really think it's interesting to hear you say that that was the only way you knew how to deal with the thoughts and the feelings that you were going through, was to be able to get it out through your art, and that you weren't able to verbally communicate what was going on inside you. And I think that's the thing that as a society we have to understand with young Black men. They've dealt with so much trauma that part of what we do, we try to focus on the behavior, right, the outcome, but we don't spend enough time really dealing with what was put in them, and what has led to trauma. So to hear you be able to say, if I didn't have my art, I don't know how I would have been able to kind of deal with those feelings and emotions that I was going through, but it would have just stayed there, right? And it would have just been toxic. And who knows, what would have happened as a result of that. So I think what I like to do now, Justin, just to kind of close it out. And again, I just want to invite people to click the link. Justin is curating a few pieces of his artwork. They've seen some of the artwork here, as part of this discussion. But I think they'll enjoy watching you talk and take them on a journey through a few of your art pieces. So again, I want to invite people to click that link. But man, to close it out, I want to see if I can invite you to share a few words to a young brother that may be watching this, who he want to make some different choices in his life. He's gone through, whether he sold drugs or used drugs, was incarcerated, or feeling discouraged about life. just any words of encouragement you would have for that brother on the way out.
I would. And I'm always like to say this, I don't want to come off as cliche or anything corny, anything like that. And I'll speak from the heart. Honestly, from my personal experience, when I say this to you, from my personal experience, not a given law or a set of standards, but for all the bad that you go through, embrace it and appreciate it. Find a way to laugh and to smile in those moments. When you're in them, or maybe not when you're in them, when you're after them. And then use those moments to push yourself. And then I'll also say that don't put a time frame on your change or the goals you have. Just be consistent. And I say that every day that you're given the chance to wake up, as you hear it all the time, truly appreciate that and take the time to just figure it out. And one of the biggest things I'll leave you with is something that was told to me that I think is some of the most important pieces of advice I've ever heard in my life is all the emotions that you're feeling. And I know, especially if you're in a situation where there's a lot compounded on your life.
Yeah.
I allow yourself to feel them. So whether it be anger, resentment, frustration, disappointment, sadness, you name it. If it's an emotion and it's coming your way, don't resist it. Let it come through and have the emotion, and then know that you can deal with it. But don't fight it. Allow yourself to be human, and just know that change will come as long as you keep pushing.
All right. Well, man, I definitely appreciate that. I agree with you. Change definitely possible, man. A friend of mine, Dr. Ted Sutton, that's something that he reiterates over and over, that change is possible. So I appreciate you sharing that, man. And also, I want to invite any young person that's checking this out, go to don'tdieyoungcares.com. Go to the website. We have a youth portal there, and man, we just have a lot of good and encouraging information. It's information, man, that was really put together and inspired by the truth of the matter that each one of us was born with a great purpose. None of us were accidents, and God has a great purpose for each of our lives, man. And you have to know that. You have to know it. You have to believe it. It can't be cliche. It just can't be spiritual lingo. That it's truth. So, man, I definitely want to encourage young people to go to Don't Die Young Cares. And Justin, I want to thank you for your time again, man. I appreciate you. And I want to invite people to check out this link to watch you curate some of your art, man. I think they will really, really enjoy that. And we'll get some feedback and we'll go from there. So, man, again, thank you. Appreciate your time, man.
It's a pleasure, man. And thank you as well. You're welcome, but thank you for having me. It's
Absolutely.
a pleasure to be here. Always to talk to you, brother. Always.
Absolutely. Likewise, man. Well, God bless, and we'll get up real soon.
Man, God bless indeed, man. God indeed. That's what we all got to put first.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, man. Take care.
You too, brother. Be safe.
All right.